Once you're out of your body, can you get back? The cute story I tell about Bob Monroe, because people would come to him and say, can you guarantee you can take you out of my body? And he says, yeah. He said, oh, well, good. He says, you understand it's permanent.
Do you know anybody that had troubles finding their way back?
For people who have had trouble, I can't know of anybody who's got lost because we haven't heard from them.
John, you had mentioned that there are possible dangers to out-of-body experience. What would those dangers be?
Well, again, you're in the highly theoretical area, and the question is, can you be identified being out there? There is an issue of once you're out of your body, can you get back? The cute story I tell about Bob Monroe, because people would come to him and say, can you guarantee you can take you out of my body? And he says, yeah. He said, oh, well, good. He says, you understand it's permanent. So, but, can you get lost out there? I think, probably not, but there are people who are concerned about those things. And it's certainly an area that we don't understand.
That's an interesting point. Has there been a report, or do you know anybody that had troubles finding their way back?
For people who have had trouble, I can't know of anybody who's got lost because we haven't heard from them.
Guess not.
Yeah.
You have heard from people that got lost.
Well, yeah, lost.
Or had trouble.
Kind of wondering about, can they get back? Vast majority said I was there, and most of them actually say they were in immediate proximity to the physical. But there are others who literally go off into the stars and
really
come back. Yeah.
Could you share with us an example of that?
Well, not one specific, but I've certainly heard stories. They talk about being out of their body and usually going up through the ceiling or through the roof and outside, and then getting, just like in the movies, and it gets farther and farther away. But then you also usually transition to a different kind of scenario as to, it's not so much a where, but what's going on and all of that.
I've heard people do this while under psychedelics multiple times. Do you consider a psychedelic out-of-body experience and a near-death out-of-body experience the same thing?
Well, the short answer would be don't know, and you'd have to know the specifics. Now, one of the key things about NDEs normally is it's like a critical emotional response. And when I was president of IONS, we would get letters and say, I often say, well, I wasn't dead, but, and they would describe these experiences. And the caveat is, but it was like yesterday. So the difference, I think, is in how they're remembered, because many of these psychic experiences, you go, well, yeah, it was kind of weird, but like dreams, it kind of dissipates over time. For most near-death experience, it doesn't dissipate. It's just like, people write, oh, it was yesterday, and
it's ingrained.
We were just screaming, Vietnam was yesterday. So there are events that are implanted more strongly than others.
What about, you'd also mentioned something about possible dangers when remote viewing into different dimensions.
Into what?
Into different dimensions.
Yeah. Well, again, we're in a highly theoretical areas and don't know. I mean, was going to say we're at the front end. The reality is some of this has been going on for centuries, just under other names. We didn't call it remote viewing per se, but we've had psychics that have done things, again, throughout human history, that they would do interventions and things out there. In general, I would say the dangers seem to be more in the psychological arena of folks coming back who are trying to integrate highly unusual experiences and not understanding how that fits into everyday life. I would say that, for instance, with near-death experience, most people who have them rarely talk about them for years. It takes them a while to integrate the reality as they know it and inculcate that into their lives. I saw a thing recently said, 3 to 4 years is kind of an average time for people to come forward and say we have. Now, it is changing, and that's mostly because society has changed quite a bit. When we first had ions, there were no TV programs that discussed this. And when they did, it was the one with Larry Hagman, with Genie, I Dream of Genie and things like that, which is very different from, no, this is a real experience or something that happened to me. And, part of the idea of, a rational aspect of that is, it certainly was, you don't want to tell your doctor this, because the answer usually is, I can fix that. We'll give you a shot of something and it'll go away. And, that's been very common. I know a number of people. They will also say there's a huge difference between talking to doctors and talking to nurses. Nurses tend to be much more accepting of these sorts of things. Doctors come from in general, a much more materialistic worldview. Again, that's changing. What's amazing to me now is how many doctors, like Eben that we mentioned earlier, are coming forward and have had their own NDEs. Now, his was obviously life-changing.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.